Hello, this is David Tillyer, PI, property interviewer. I'm here with my good friend Mr. Paul Ribbions. Paul, how are you?
I'm fantastic, David. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm very, very well, thank you. Paul, I just wanted to have a quick chat with you because I know that you're doing a lot of speaking engagements at the moment, and I know a lot of our listeners that are within the property arena actually know a little bit about you. But I wonder if you can just start with just telling myself and the listeners a little bit about your background and how you got involved in property.
It's quite simple. My background is I'm one of these guys that never was good at school, couldn't wait to get out of there. Eventually left with no qualifications. Was a baker for many years because I thought that was the only thing I could do. And eventually I managed to hustle my way into an estate agency at the age of 23 because I wanted a better life.
Okay.
So I did that 1986, I think it was. It's 85, 86. And I've been in property arena ever since. But being an estate agent was hard work, especially during the 90s with interest rates at double figures. And I was a particularly good agent. And over that period, I realised that actually if I wanted to get in life where I wanted to go, I probably needed to change direction. And I did that in 1996. I came out of an agency, went self-employed as an acquisitions agent. I had 4 main clients, and one of the clients said to me after about 6 months, "Look, you're good at this, why don't we have a 50-50 partnership?" So that's what we've been doing ever since, and through a complete and utter cock-up, I bought a really a bad house that we used to do refurbs in them days, and when I purchased it, I realised it was a dog with fleas. It was really bad. So my business partner Richard said, "Look, let's just chuck it in the auction and just dump it. Take the loss now rather than in 6 months' time." And lo and behold, it sold for substantially more than we paid for it. And out of a complete cock-up, a multi-million-pound strategy was born. And we've been trading properties, buying them off the open market, selling them in auction ever since.
Okay, so it was really by a fluke, if want for a better word, that you actually discovered the strategy and you've been successful since then.
Misjudgment of error to start with, absolute fluke.
Okay,
yeah, definitely.
Good. Okay, what would you say though are the 3 top things that someone would really need to focus on to be successful in property?
You need an ability. Ability is probably not the word. You need to be able to focus and have a certain amount of tenacity to keep on going, because this business is full of knocks.
Yeah.
You'll get knocked back after. When we was talking earlier, you said about you're trying to do business with people and you think, what have I got to do to get them to do what I want?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you show them something you think is a good deal, but I would say you've got to have a thick skin.
Right. I
don't know what the word no means. I only have to ask my wife and she'll tell you what that is. I just I just don't know. I've took it out of my vocabulary a long way. No means not yet.
Okay.
So I may not get the result I want, but I'll just keep on. Okay. So that's number 1, is that tenacity.
Yeah.
Second, I think you need the skills in understanding people. Because you've heard this saying before, I'm in the people business. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's the most overused cliche I've ever heard, because most people don't understand the person they're dealing with.
Yeah.
So in order for me to influence you, I've got to know what already influences you.
Yes.
So I need to understand it from your perspective, not from mine. And most people, most investors I come across are coming from what I call I mode. Yes. I mean, what's in it for me? I want to get a deal done here. I want to do this. I want to do that. I. Sure. As opposed to, hang on a second, this isn't about me. It's about the other person.
Sure.
So that's number 2.
Okay.
And the third thing, I think you've got to have a very clear vision of what you want. Okay. And what I mean by that, when I was 23 and I was a baker wanting to get into a different arena, and I didn't really choose property because it would make me wealthy. I just believed I could do it.
Yes.
I used to daydream about living in a house that was double fronted. As you walked in the front door, you had a central staircase splitting and going off to the right. On the right hand side you had a large dining room and then a big massive kitchen breakfast room. On the left hand side there was a study. On the left hand side there was a lounge. Yeah. And then partly in the garden next to the house
Yes.
was a garage. So you could park a car next to the house, but the garage was partly in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
I live in that house today.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there visualising it and having a clear indication of where I wanted to be in so many years' time.
Sure.
So you've got to have that focus, that vision.
Mm.
Otherwise, you're really going nowhere.
Sure. I think that's very important, for anybody to have that vision of where they want to be, because, if you sort of like stumble through life, daydreaming, you're never going to get ultimately to be where you want to be, right?
Mm.
So, vision is very, very important. So, if someone was to get started in this business today, what would you say they would need to get started?
I think the number one biggest thing I say to my students and people I train is that you've got to get good at being able to spot an opportunity. Because I've got some bad news for your listeners. Absolutely horrendous news. There's not lots of deals out there.
No.
But there are lots of opportunities.
Right.
And there's a big difference between an opportunity and a deal. Because deals are like pots of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah.
My stepmother sent me out many years ago saying, go and find the pot of gold when I was about 7 or 8. I was never going to find it because it doesn't exist.
Sure.
Deals don't exist, they're created.
Yeah.
They're created out of an opportunity that arises. And there's a recipe for a deal, and that's, if you follow that recipe, then you'll spot an opportunity very, very quickly. And that's the ability that people need.
Okay. Cool. So it's actually really going out there and trying to work with someone to create a deal, effectively, when a deal doesn't even exist.
Exactly. I think the biggest issue I find that most people believe they've got a problem with is finance. And actually finance is the least of your worries. Because if you can spot opportunities and create deals, you'll never, ever be scared.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. It is. Okay, so then if someone was to actually spot these deals and be able to be creative in so much in that they can put them together, will your methods that you actually teach people, will they work in what you do? Can they use those?
My forte, David, is I'm well known for my exit.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's an unusual exit, but it's my ability to spot the opportunities and put the deals together, which is where my forte lies.
Okay.
So putting them together is all well and good, but the next step is vital, and that's being able to negotiate them. Because if you can't negotiate, now, it's funny. I was talking to my wife and I said, look, one of the we was working on a talk, and I said to her, I want to talk about elegant negotiating. And she said, the two don't go together. Because most people think you've got to be hard-nosed to negotiate.
Yeah,
There's a battle of some kind.
Yeah.
But elegant negotiating is just that. It's elegant, it's effortless, and it's effective. Because you've got, again, I said earlier about this is the people business.
Yeah.
If you understand it from someone else's perspective, you can put that deal together.
Sure.
Quite easy, negotiate it. Then you've got something to work with.
Okay, so looking at the deal really from their point of view as well, being in their shoes and seeing how they receive it, and if you can actually work with that deal, from your side, being in their shoes as well. That's
right.
Yeah.
So once you've got an idea of what the deal you can do, the exit is irrelevant, really.
Yeah.
I.e., exit could be death. I'm never going to sell anything, right?
Yeah.
Your exit could be I want to flip it. The exit could be I want to refurb it and flip it. The most important part is getting that deal to the point of being able to do it. Once you know you've bought the deal, then you can decide what the exit's going to be.
Sure.
Too many people are thinking about the exit before they've done the deal in the first place.
Yeah, sure.
Make sense?
It does, yeah. And I think that's a really valid point for the listeners, because I think, if you always looking for an exit rather than how you can put the deal together, then is, you're trying to run before you can walk effectively. Yeah, okay. Now, how much experience, Paul, would you say someone needs to really make property their number one business, so that they can actually have property as their number one income? Does it take a lot of experience, or could you do it part-time? Or, how much experience does one need?
Well, this is quite interesting, because I was listening to quite a well-known speaker, she called Joanna Martin, and she was talking about, I was on a little one-day course, she did a little taster, And she said, look, how many people here could actually take the information that I give and actually run with it and do something with it? And the majority of the room didn't agree with me. I said I could do it, no problem. But the rest of the room disagreed with me. Okay. Because I believe anybody can learn very quickly, providing they've got the right substance, that they're built of the right substance, they've got that tenacity, they've got that determination, and they're prepared to take the knocks. Yeah. Because if you think about it, success is the result of good judgment. Good judgment is the result of, what's the word I'm thinking of? Experience. Right? Yeah. Experience is the result of bad judgment.
Yes.
So if you have to unpack that, success is actually a formula. So if you know that your success really comes down to your bad judgments as well as your good judgments. Yeah. So someone's really got to take the bull by the horns. There's an old saying, I can't remember who said it, if you want to take the island, burn the boats. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine around the corner. His father is a multi-millionaire. His family are very wealthy. They sold a big lot of land. They were scrap metal dealers back in the 70s. Very wealthy family. He can have access to that money if he has a business plan. Sure. So I said to him, why don't you use it for property? Yeah. You've got the ideal opportunity. You haven't got to go to a bank. You just go to your family and say, this is the deal. Yeah. He said, I can't do it. He said, I haven't got enough time. I said, Tony, you need the sack. Because if he'd have got the sack, he'd have had to have done it. It's like burning your boats.
It is.
I don't recommend people just chuck their jobs in, because it depends on the individual. But I've done it twice. In fact, I've done it 3 times now, where I've chucked my life up in the air. Now, if you're that sort of person, you're probably going to succeed and do really well. If you're not that sort of person, then it's going to take you a lot longer. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely.
So it depends on the individual person.
Sure, okay. And obviously we're all individuals, right? We're all unique.
Of course we are.
As our own thumbprint. I mean, you mentioned Joanna Martin earlier there. I actually, when Joanna Martin used to work for Chris Howard, that's when I was working with him. And so I know Jo very, very well, and she's a great trainer, so if we see her again, give her my regards. But no, I mean, as regards to someone doing this full time, I mean, obviously you've actually worked with a lot of people in the courses that you actually do. Can you provide some real life examples of people that you've actually sort of trained and what sort of results they've actually delivered?
Yeah, I can do. I mean, I can give you a very broad spectrum. I mean, one of the first guys I ever taught anything was in March 2010 at Watford. It was the Watford PIN meeting. And I would sit down there and we're chatting, and he's come to me afterwards. He said, would you be able to teach me? I said, of course I would, it's not a problem. We're looking for clients. Sat down. He went out on his very first deal and earned £76,000. His very first deal.
That's amazing.
There's a guy called Paul Ribbions.
I know Tor, yes.
He's been on the PIN circuit. One of the very first deals he did, actually using my strategy, made £56,000 out of one house.
Blimey.
So these guys I've sat down with, explained it to them, this is what you've got to do. It took balls. Yeah. I remember I took Tor kicking and screaming, saying, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. Yeah. He's going, yeah, but supposing it doesn't go right. I said, that's the way the cookie crumbles.
It's the risk, isn't it? I suppose, really. Yeah.
And then he phoned me from the pub that night, a little bit worse for wear, saying, I sold it.
Excellent.
So, but we've also had people who have done £10,000, bought a house at £50,000, sold it for a £10,000 profit. But think about that. That's 20% increase.
It is, yeah.
So it depends whereabouts on the spectrum you are. These guys have never had that much training. Tor Portes has had a lot more experience. So I sat down with him back in 2010. So same with Niraj, they've both done extremely well. So it depends on the deal they've got. Yeah. But these deals are more than, I'd say the average was probably 20 grand. Sure. That people make across the board. I mean, I'm telling you, 76 and 56. Yeah. It's impressive, but that's not going to be every deal you do.
Sure. I mean, obviously, there's going to be swings and roundabouts, but I think, even if you look to make maybe £10,000 on a deal on average, if you did them for them a year, that's £40,000, and that's most, more than people can earn in a sort of salary in a year. Yeah, it is, yeah. So even if you're doing this like part time, it could actually be quite an uplift in someone's income over a period of a year.
Yeah.
So, having said that then, so if you was to actually give our listeners just one secret about property, what would it be?
This is a big secret now. I don't know if I should really say this because it's that big, the secret.
Okay.
It's called location. Now, I joke, but location is everything. And I hear investors going, well, I can't get any deals in London, so I've gone up north to buy some. God, please don't.
Yeah.
You've got to be so careful because when the market turns, and it will, I promise you it will turn, you know, when the market turns and people aren't renting anymore, you want a property that's always going to be lettable.
Yeah.
Or there's an old saying in business, in fact it's the first rule of business, is find a market and supply it.
Yes.
So you know what your effectively your punters want, for a better phrase. If you understand what the market wants, then you can supply it. But at the moment, we are in an artificial market. We've got to be very careful because the rental market will say it wants anything. But when it all settles down, the dust settles down, you're going to find that the location is vitally important as much as for letting as it is for if you're selling.
Sure, okay. So there's obviously going to be key pockets and key areas, obviously the capital being one of them, or major cities and towns where there's a lot of, obviously, there's a lot of work and there's a lot of pull and rental demand, right?
That's it.
Okay, good.
Because my exit, I'm selling to investors as well, so they're looking at them areas, they want the best areas. And the wealthiest people I know, I'm not talking about all the gurus you see that are visible, I'm talking about the underground guys who never come out. Who my mates tell me, what are you telling everyone the secrets for? For Christ's sake, keep quiet, don't tell them.
Yeah.
I said, don't mind, there's plenty around for all of us. These guys are extremely wealthy, very little debt, with big unencumbered portfolios. You know, 50 to 100 houses with no mortgages. Wow. You know, it's a lovely place to be.
It is.
And these guys will only buy in the best locations. It'll be near a tube station in London. Or if it's the home county, it's near a commuter belt city that takes people into the city if need be. They'll only buy properties they would consider living in themselves.
Okay.
I.e. if they had to. If they're on their arse, would they go and rent it?
Sure.
Yes, I would. I'll buy that one then. They don't think, oh, well, I'll buy Newcastle just because it happens to be cheap down there, because there's little pockets that are very, Sunderland and places like that.
Sure.
There's little pockets near Hull that you wouldn't want to live in.
Yeah.
You could buy a house for the street for £1, you know?
Yeah.
You just wouldn't buy them. So
Sure.
location is important.
I think you're absolutely right, because you know a lot of the people sometimes actually do invest to their means and their budget. They think, well, I've only got like 25,000 to invest. There's a property up north, and they think, yeah, I can buy it for that. But obviously, as you said, they come unstuck because then they've basically been sold a pup because they can't rent it out.
Yeah.
So you know there are some mistakes that people make, and really that sort of brings me on to the next thing. You know, what would you say some of the most common mistakes that people make when they invest in property? The
common mistake, I believe, is that they believe what people tell them. It sounds terrible, but I always question what people tell me. Yeah. I want to see the logic behind it. If there's logic behind it, then I'll take it on board. If there's no logic behind it, then I'll throw it away. Yeah. So someone's got to tell me something that I can see is logical, because I'm quite analytical, and I want to know why this is working. Yeah. So if someone says, it's a great area to invest in, Bulgaria right at the moment, there's a queue of investors waiting to buy them off plan. Yeah. So you think, okay, I might have a look at that. I always think about it, who's the end user? Yeah. Where's it going to stop? Who's going to be the one holding the hot potato? Yeah. So people say, they're growing up in value and they're telling me all these statistics. Yeah. I want to see what's behind the statistics. So they tell you what they think you want to hear, but it's not really. Yeah, that's right. Okay. And most investors swallow it. Yeah. I never rely on what I'm told. One of my rules. Never rely. And if they get used to doing their own due diligence and listening to their own gut reaction, because your guts tell you things. Yeah, yeah. We're instinctive animals, and we should listen to our instincts more often. Sure. Yeah. So it's really a bit like Spock, I suppose. You really are. Then you're a logical person. Then you have to look at it from a logical point of view. That's logical. That's logical. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, some people might think that, it all sounds a bit too good to be true, and what is the catch? I mean, like you were saying a minute ago, like, that they tell you what you want to hear, things like that, and there's some wonderful deals out there. But I mean, what are the things really to look out for, would you say? I mean, are there certain, I know you've actually given us some common mistakes maybe, but what are the things to look out for a newbie property investor that's going to be listening to this right now? What would you say are the things to actually really look out for and be aware of?
I think the market is changing a great deal at the moment, and you've got to be careful because the landscape changes quickly. It's what I call a structural shift, and it's happening at the moment. It happened in 2008. If you think about it again logically, lovely word. In 2008, the only reason why our property market stopped is because it was interrupted by the cock-up in America with their subprime mortgages.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for them, our market would have continued. So you have to start looking at the overall picture.
Sure.
What's it going to be? What's the landscape going to be like in, say, 5 or 10 years? Because if one piece of advice I can give people to start understanding is the fundamentals behind property.
All right.
Study the fundamentals, why something is working, because everything is cause and effect.
Yes.
So something happens here, there's going to be an effect, but what is that effect going to be? I'll give you a classic example. Do you remember the horse meat scandal?
Yep.
Do you know that could affect your tenants?
Really?
Now, you've got a bit of a blank look on your face
I have,
there.
yeah.
Well, how could horse meat affect my tenants?
They were vegetarians.
But this is the thing, right? Horse meat scandal comes up. There's nothing wrong with horse meat. It's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
It's not. It's only a scandal that they were trying to sell you beef and they were actually putting horse meat in there.
Right.
But people are going, this is outrageous. We can't have this. Now, all the ready meals that were being made for £1 or being sold for £1 were using horse meat because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, horse meat gets scrapped. So now the people like Findus are saying, okay, we can't use horse meat. We've got to use beef. The public are demanding they want quality. The supermarkets are demanding they want quality. So they have to go and buy quality beef now as opposed to cheap horse meat. What's going to happen to that pound product?
It's going to go up.
How much by?
I don't know. Probably going to go up quite a lot.
50 pence, maybe even 60%.
Yeah.
So it goes up 50 pence.
Yeah.
That's one ready meal. Say a family of 4. That's 4 ready meals. That's £2 a day. You times that by 7. That's 28 quid. You times that by a month, that's 60 quid. You times that by a year, you get the picture.
Yeah.
Right? All of a sudden it becomes inflationary. It starts adding to your tenants' problems along with their gas, electric, their petrol. It's all gone up, rent's gone up, so they start feeling the pinch. It makes them potentially vulnerable.
Yeah.
So these little things, these cause and effect. So I would strongly recommend that people really understand the fundamentals behind either renting or selling, whichever they're going to do. If they really need to do both, because if they're studying the sales market, they know how they can buy better deals, and if they're studying the letting market, they know what ones fit what strategy.
Yeah, no, that's a good piece of advice there, because I think a lot of people actually don't always realise the exit, and what sort of effects things actually have on the market. Okay, what sort of things can someone do though, Paul, to actually stay on top? Because obviously, there's lots of things that are happening there. It's like trying to keep as many, plates spinning at once. So what can someone do if they're interested in actually having a career in property? What can they do to stay on top?
Well, there's numerous things you can do. One is education. The great thing about nowadays is that you can Google anything.
Yeah.
And you can even YouTube anything. You do a YouTube search, you'll find a video on something.
Sure.
I mean, I've got loads of videos free online. They can search straight away.
Yeah.
7 steps to finding great deals, the 7 stages of negotiation. That's available online today. There's so much information. But if they want to accelerate that, they could possibly take on someone's course or some sort of program where they could look at, because it depends on the individual and their learning style. Some people learn quickly and only have to see something once and they can replicate it. Some people need repetition, which is the mother of all skill. So it all depends on the individual. But I would certainly say get educated on what the important elements of this, because it's 4 elements as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
The first one we touched on, which is basically the fundamentals.
Yeah.
The second element is the ability to find deals.
Yeah.
The third element is elegant negotiating. And the fourth element is knowing your exit. Without knowing the fundamentals, you don't necessarily know what the best exit is, because you can do the right things at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to educate themselves. Is this the right thing for now? Mm-hmm. Is this the wrong thing for now? You know,
yeah,
so
sure. So it all comes down to education at the end of the day.
Does,
yeah.
And they don't have to pay for it. They can search online. There is abundance of information. We live in an information age now.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think as well, you know, the knowledge that someone gains obviously only really expands their mind, and that really sort of makes me mindful of the saying that the mind once stretched to new dimensions can never return to the same shape and size again. So it's about really continuing expanding your mind and your knowledge, and obviously maybe, you know, going on courses that you do, or maybe listening to your webinars that you do, and obviously you know, continually expanding knowledge. So how can people find out more information about Paul Ribbions?
PaulRibbions.com, simple, nice
Simple
and
as that.
simple. Yeah.
Excellent.
And we've got a book they can purchase, which is Hustle Your Way to Property Success.
Okay.
We've got numerous reports from the website they can download, which gives them a good insight into the fundamentals.
Sure.
So these things are available. So, I mean, you don't have to Google my name nowadays and I'll come up. So.
Sure, okay. But it's just straightforward, paulribbions.com, okay, and everybody can actually find all the information they need to know about you, the reports that you've wrote as well, and obviously they can buy your book online as well, and everything else. Okay, well, Paul, thank you very much for your time. I mean, I think this has given the listeners a really good overview about Paul Ribbions, and obviously, you know, the wealth of knowledge that you have and your experience within the industry. And I think it is about, you know, shifting someone's mindset, because once their mind is actually shifted to actually, you know, open it to, you know, their exit and where they're going to be, that they can look at things a bit more differently. So, Paul, thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to you very much again. Sure.
It's been an absolute pleasure, David. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.